In London, this is Dan Damon. It may be that some listeners in some parts of the world didn't get the whole of our bulletin at the top of the hour. If that was the case for you, we apologise. Some of the equipment decided to take a holiday. It's back working now, we hope. But we will, of course, have another bulletin, an update at past the hour, and another full bulletin at the top of the hour at 10 GMT. Well, coming up in World Update, London's most famous casino gets a $70 million makeover.
The history is incredible. It opened in 1900 as an indoor big top. Charlie Chaplin was in the cast on the opening night, and they had shows involving elephants, sea lions, seals, midgets diving from the Minstrel's Gallery.
More on that, and also a new smartphone operating system that makes life easier for the blind and visually impaired.
Where am I? 14 Farringdon, London Borough of Islington, London EC1R.
We thought we knew what other blind people might want. Big, easy-to-use buttons, all the apps working in the same way, everything to hand on the phone.
More apps, texts, places, page 1 of 2.
Plus, there are reports of another massacre in Syria, 200 people killed, and the activists on the opposition side blame government forces and militias. We'll have more on that later here on World Update. Our top story at the moment, details still coming in. 19 people at least reported killed, at least 20 injured after a train collided with a truck in northeast South Africa. A goods train collided in the Mpumalanga province with a truck that was on a crossing. Milton and Cozy is in our Johannesburg bureau.
Well, reports that are coming out of the eastern province of South Africa called Mpumalanga are that there's been a huge accident involving a goods train and a truck full of farm workers. Reports are still sketchy, and it's not clear exactly how the accident happened, but it sounds like what may have happened is that the goods truck full of farm workers may have been crossing a railway line while the goods train was on its way, and that's when they collided. And the police have confirmed that at least 19 people have died.
And the infrastructure in South Africa is pretty well controlled, isn't it? These are not rickety trains and roads with no barriers to stop the trucks getting onto the tracks.
Very true. South Africa's road infrastructure is probably the best on the African continent. Roads are largely well maintained and signposted, but it is very difficult to know exactly what happened in this incident. But it sounds like this truck or the truck driver may not have seen the train when he was driving across the railway line.
And what kind of emergency services are available in that part of South Africa?
Well, this place is called Hoekspotspruit, and it is east of the provincial capital, Nelspruit. So I think that you'd have a decent amount of paramedic support and emergency support in general, the police and the hospitals in the surrounding area. So those who are injured, and there are reports that over 20 are critically injured, may receive medical care and treatment on the scene before they are taken to hospitals.
Milton and Cozy reporting from our Johannesburg bureau. If we get more information on that crash, as Milton said, there are still many details to be filled in, but at least 19 people killed when a train hit a truck on a crossing in Mpumalanga province in South Africa. The victory of the Muslim Brotherhood's Mohammed Morsi in Egyptian presidential election last month was celebrated not only in Egypt but also in neighbouring Gaza. Hamas, the Islamist group which runs the Palestinian territory, was originally formed in the 1980s as an offshoot of the Brotherhood. Hamas did not fare well when Hosni Mubarak was in charge. The former Egyptian leader joined Israel and blockaded Gaza after Hamas came to power. Our Gaza correspondent John Donison reports now on what Hamas might be expecting as a result of the Brotherhood's rise.
Celebration in Gaza via the popular and plentiful medium of the car horn. Fireworks too for Hamas supporters out on the streets last month, overjoyed at the arrival of a new president. Not here, but across the border in Egypt. Hamas sees the Muslim Brotherhood's Mohammed Morsi as one of their own.
We are very happy It was very wonderful and democratic.
Ghazi Hamad is Hamas's deputy foreign minister. When I meet him in his office in Gaza City, he's in buoyant mood, his shoes kicked off with a large fan, struggling to cool his toes amid the searing summer heat. He may be hot, but he's not bothered. He's keen to talk about Egypt.
The new voice, the new regime in Egypt, it will be more supporters for the Palestinians, not only for Hamas, but the whole Palestinian question. Israel is more isolated. Israel, they lost the most important friend in the Middle East. It will not be like in the Mubarak regime.
Such a belief that things will be different comes because Hamas and the Brotherhood were cut from the same cloth.
At the end of the day, Hamas is part of the International Muslim Brotherhood organization. Hamas was established here in the Gaza Strip as an arm for the Muslim Brotherhood.
Mokhema Abu Sada is professor of politics at the Strip's Al-Azhar University.
Maybe Hamas, because the Palestinians are under the Israeli occupation, became a militant organization dedicated to fighting the Israeli occupation. But at the end of the day, both Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt subscribe to the same principles.
Some have suggested that having a powerful and now friendly neighbour will make Hamas more confident in its ongoing conflict with Israel. But the Muslim Brotherhood has said it wants to uphold Egypt's long-standing peace treaty with Israel. Professor Abu Sada believes the Brotherhood will put pressure on Hamas to also maintain some sort of cold peace.
Egypt is definitely not interested in provoking Israel. Egypt is much more concerned with solving its internal problems, poverty, unemployment. The same thing very much belongs here to Hamas. Hamas is much more interested in rebuilding, reconstructing the Gaza Strip instead of engaging into a new war.
And evidence of that reconstruction is everywhere you look in Gaza, especially here in Gaza City. The last year or so of relative calm have allowed a huge building boom, but virtually all the material, the cement, the gravel, it still all comes through smuggling tunnels from Egypt. The trade blockade that Hosni Mubarak imposed at Israel's request when Hamas came to power has never been lifted. Rafika Suna runs one of the biggest construction companies in Gaza. He hopes things will change under Mohamed Morsi.
We suffer from Mubarak. We hope the new president of Egypt, Mohamed Morsi, to treat with Gaza as any neighbor country. There is a commercial relation between Egypt and Libya, Egypt and Sudan. So we hope to establish the same relation between Gaza and Egypt.
Do you think that will happen?
We pray for this.
But there is one reason why such an opening up might not happen. Hamas and Egypt want to be close, but not too close. A point I put to Deputy Foreign Minister Ghazi Hamad. Some in Israel have said that Gaza has a lot more in common with Egypt than it does with Israel, and that it really should be pushed towards Egypt. Is there a danger of that as your relations improve with Egypt, Gaza becomes Egypt's problem, not Israel?
Look, Gaza is part of Palestine. Gaza, West Bank, Jerusalem, and the whole Palestine in one geographical and political unit. Gaza is part of the Palestine homeland. It is not part of Egypt.
That's John Donnison's report from Gaza. How effective is advertising on social media? What do all those likes on Facebook, for example, what do they really mean? Well, BBC technology correspondent Rory Kethlen-Jones has been trying to find out and came up with some prizing answers. Rory, tell us about your experiment.
Well, I wanted to find out what those likes really were worth and what role adverts could play, Facebook adverts, in driving them. And I launched a business, a completely imaginary business called Virtual Bagel. I didn't say anything about it anywhere else. I just bought some advertising on Facebook. I targeted it pretty widely across the United States, the UK, and various Middle Eastern and Asian countries. And very rapidly, I had nearly 3,000 people liking this slightly bizarre and empty page.